Hello everyone, Jeff here again. Wanted to talk to you about a common problem that we find once in a while. Now, this is a condominium in a 55 and older development here. So what we see a lot is you'll buy a condo at the foreclosure auction and you move into it, and this wall right here, we can just smell a whole bunch of cigarette smoke coming through from the neighbor next door. She smokes like a chimney. I mean, this lady's just, I swear she uses one cigarette to light the next one. She's that bad. So a common problem we have is that smoke from somebody else's unit next door will always find its way into your unit. So what do you do? How do you seal up your place to prevent all of that smoke from coming over? Hey everybody, Jeff here, and welcome back to our channel. If this is your first time visiting us, this is a great time for you to take a look at the subscription button down below, and you want to click on that so you can be aware of all of the other videos that we put out to help you. So this is all for you, my friends. And at the same time, when you subscribe, make sure you click on that bell icon right next to it that'll appear when you subscribe, because it doesn't make any sense if you subscribe without being alerted to every time we put up a new video. Okay? And then if you have any questions at all, leave them down in the comments and we'll answer them for you. So let's get started with today's project. As it turns out, we're going to be doing a major remodel in here. We're going to remove the carpet and take these baseboards off, and we're going to put, much better baseboards and wood flooring in here. But while we're in here doing this is when we have to take care of that. So I'll show you some of the quick steps that we use to do this. So what happens is the cigarette smoke can come in through the bottom of the baseboards. Even though you don't really see anything, there's often about 1/4 of an inch crack down there. So we need to fill that void, and what we do is we will go ahead and remove the baseboards, and once we do, you'll reveal a much bigger void. It's usually about, the drywall stops typically about 1/2 inch off the floor. So you can fill it with the foam, and I'll show you this foam that we like to use here. So this is an expanding foam that'll fill, small gaps, stuff like that. We often will also use caulk. So sometimes we'll run thick beads of this down at the bottom of the drywall. Sometimes we use the silicone as well. I like to use silicone because it doesn't crack and dry, and it will never fail on you. Also, other places that it can sneak in here are on these electrical outlets. So we're going to be popping this off and changing this to a more modern looking electrical outlet anyway. But when you look at the electrical boxes behind your outlet, sometimes those boxes have extra holes on them for either other screws or other entry points for more Romex cable to come up through the bottom. So those all have to be plugged. Every single opening you find and every crack has to be plugged. Also, the cutout and the drywall around the outlet box behind this plate has a seam, there's space there, and smoke can come in through there too. That all has to be caulked. So it's a lot of work. It's very labor intensive to get all of this done. Okay, here's another product we use a lot too. This is called an outlet sealer, and you can see you can detach it to make it any shape you want. In this case, I'm using a Decora shape here, and it's a foam rubber gasket about 1/8 of an inch. And you really should be using these on every one of your outlet plates anyway to seal your plate, to keep like air conditioning from seeping out and going into the wall anyhow. These are always recommended by environmentalists. So this would go on the other side of the plate. If we were using a Decora switch here, it would go on the other side of the plate, and you simply screw it into place there, behind the outlet plate there. And that will help seal things as well too, because you also want to seal this area here around the switch. So it's like the things you wouldn't think you have to seal them up really good. Now here we are in front of the medicine cabinet, and you can see there's a space there. We're gonna have to, when we take this out, and I'll show you in a second here, but we'll pull this guy out, and you have to seal in all of the cracks and spaces that are in there too. Okay, so here we've removed the medicine cabinet, and you can see all these seams here. All that's got to get sealed up all the way around on that side, all the way along the top. and I can actually feel a draft coming from in there. Ugh, yeah. And let me tell you, when I put my nose up to it right here, I get like a headache because it's so bad. It's so pungent. And you can see, wherever you see that black gap there, and even along the front, any unused nail holes, those all got to be sealed up. Everything. We had to do an electrical panel one time, and there was all sorts of little nooks and crannies to fill in on the back, and unused portholes along the bottom. Oh, it was terrible. A lot of work. So this is something you'll have to do here too. And also, behind the light, there's the box, the outlet box behind the light there. And where that outlet box meets the drywall, there's cutouts, and you have to seal all of that up, seal any holes in there. You have an outlet over here. You're going to have to do the same thing with this. Seal that guy up real good. And as we look under the cabinet here, we'll have to see. We're going to be replacing the vanity, but let's say even if you weren't replacing the vanity, you'd want to get some foam into those holes there around the pipes and make sure that there's nothing. See, you want to make sure it can't come in through there as well. Another good spot for it to sneak in, and it wouldn't happen here because there's caulking, but let's say you put in a new toilet and you haven't caulked it yet. We found that one time. We were in a bathroom that we knew we sealed up completely. We couldn't figure out where it was coming from, and then we realized that, hey, it's coming through the bottom of the toilet. This was coming from a downstairs unit going up into our unit. But once we had caulked around the toilet, that took care of it. In this case, that's not an issue because the problem is coming through the wall. Okay. So you have a switch in here that you're going to have to take care of. You've got that pipe coming out of the wall there, and behind that, where the you can see there's a little bit of a hole there. That's got to be filled in. And this is probably the worst offender right here, is the ceiling vent fan there. Because up inside that vent fan, there's lots of holes that have to get filled in and stuff. And you know that nobody ever mates these properly to the existing holes that are up there. And so remember, from their unit next door, the smoke is coming in the wall and probably up into this little lowered part of the ceiling. Once it gets over to here, we're fine. It can't really get past corners and stuff, so we're pretty much only concerning ourselves with this wall here, maybe this wall here. We may cut a hole. We may cut a hole in this wall here and just see if we smell anything. Because remember, there's studs in these walls. So a lot of times with these walls here, if there's studs, you've got a stud right here in the wall, the drywall's up against the stud, so it's pretty well pinched up against it, and there's not much getting past it. So once you have that first stud coming off the corner, it's not going to get past it. But we will cut a hole here and smell it just to make sure. And then coming back out here by the window, this is an exterior brick wall right here, a cement block. And they have furring strips that are attached to them, and then the drywall attaches to the furring strips. So in theory, the smoke shouldn't be able to get past the first set of furring strips. So we'll probably cut a pilot hole over here and another one over here and make sure we don't smell anything. But that's pretty much it, because this is a cement slab up top. There's no other ceiling or anything for smoke to come in from next door. So it's just a matter of us taking care of everything we need to do on this side. So let me peel off some of this baseboard and let's see what it looks like behind it. So if you look here at the bottom of the floor, you can see that that's about a ½ inch. There's a gap there where the drywall doesn't come all the way down on the floor. So once we get this carpet out, we're going to decide whether or not we want to use the foam or if we're better off using the caulk. Now the problem with using the caulk is each tube of caulk is only good for about a 30-foot stripe at best. And that's if you're going between 1/8 of an inch and 1/4 of an inch. But with this ½ inch right here, I can guarantee you this will take 2 or 3 tubes to go all the way across. And because of the size of this gap, you'd have a hard time with the caulk filling that gap, even on the first try. So that's probably going to be done with foam. It's a lot quicker. You can do it in one pass right down the wall. As you can see here, we've already caulked this whole cavity here for the medicine cabinet with silicone caulk, and it's pretty difficult to do it like right around this dry part where it meets the drywall, but we got it in there. This whole thing here will take about 20 minutes to do it properly. You got to make sure every little thing is sealed, every little screw hole there we got up underneath the overlapping metal, and you can see along the seam here of the drywall too. You got to seal all of that in. So just from that little bit in this little area right here, we don't smell it as bad. Of course, 3 feet over, it still smells pretty gnarly. Alright, so I usually just take the foam here. You have the can upside down, you shake it well first, of course, and you just start back in the corner there. Start foaming it up in there. I try not to let it overdo it because it does expand a little bit. You're just trying to seal up the space under there. And any of the excess you can come back and cut later. And this stuff cuts, once it dries, it cuts real easy with a utility knife. So you just want to make sure it's all evenly filling up the space up there. Get all of that void filled in. And you want to stop every once in a while and shake your can. And come back and find any gaps there and get those filled in. That's pretty much all there is to it. Okay, now turning our attention here towards the fan. So I pulled this thing off here, and we come back up and we look in there in the cavity, so you can see all of these holes got to get covered up with silicone caulk there. So that's why you have to pull this thing down so that you can get at all of them too, because they're everywhere around here. Every one of those little openings you see there, anywhere where air can get into from the outside. And then see how there's this gap here leading up into the little attic space there. So that's all got to get filled in. And then we're going to take the fan body out. I want to make sure that this thing is connected to the vent, to the outside. Because if it's not, then that means that you're getting smoke in from right there, where the port is. Well, as we were able to ascertain, they did indeed connect it up to the hose that goes up to the top there, the exhaust vent tube. However, they did do one thing stupid here. So you can see they put screws on this side here, right? But what they did was they screwed it right into the edge of the drywall, so it really compromised everything here. That was just really dumb. There is a stud back in here, so we have to run a 3-inch screw through here to reach that stud, because you don't want this thing bouncing around. But see all these gaps here? We're going to fill this all up with foam. I'm going to come and get all these little nooks and crannies up in here too. And we're still going to caulk too, just to make sure we get everything covered. Okay, so here you can see we've put caulk in a lot of the holes and in some of the corners up there. And you can even see how the white foam oozed in through some of the holes already in the bottom, just because I put it on the back side of it inside the gap. So it just shows you how much air there is up in there in that cabinet that can come up here and deliver smoke to your nose. So we got all these covered up. So you see, this is how we just slice through the stuff the next day after it's dried. And you can see it filled the void pretty nicely there. And actually, we don't even really smell any cigarette smoke right now. When I used to walk into this room and get a headache within 10 seconds. So what we've done so far has probably been the biggest effect, and also what we just did on that fan there in the ceiling. And that took, it was probably about an hour's worth of work, and they're getting all of those things all plugged up. But we just have to go and cut the rest of this off, And don't forget, we still need to do these outlets and the switch plates, and we still need to do that light above the vanity as well. Okay, so we have this electrical outlet here in the bathroom. You can see how close it is to the sink. And we were gonna take this outlet out of here. We're gonna put a new one in anyway. Our plan was to put in a GFI outlet because it's required by code anyway. Anytime you have an outlet within 6 feet of a sink or water, that you have to have it as a GFI. It's got to be GFI protected. But we discovered something here when we pulled this outlet out. So if you look at what they did here, see they looped the white wire there, the common, and they also looped the black wire, and that's not a problem here. Does anybody here see what the problem is? Do you guys see what's missing here? If you look closely at these wires here, see a black wire, see a white wire, and what's missing here? Well, there's no ground. That means this outlet was never grounded. That's extremely dangerous to do that. And on top of that, they probably thought, oh, I'll just screw it to the front of this outlet box and I'll be grounded. Well, that's not true. Probably for a couple of reasons, because it's painted on the front, first of all. Second of all, the box itself is not bonded. That means, see that you can see that in the back there, and they got paint all over. These are the ground wires here coming up and through there. They're feeding through the box, but nowhere are they wrapped around a ground screw. So we're going to see if we can't fix that right now by putting a ground screw in there. You can see there's a hole in the back there, right there where my finger's pointing. That is where we could potentially put in a green ground screw and try to wrap some of this ground wire around it. I don't know how whether we'll really be able to. We're going to try our best. We'll have to sand off some of that paint, get it nice and shiny and coppery, and twist another piece of ground wire around that, wrap it to the post, and then have another pigtail ground come off of our ground post or ground screw, and that pigtail will then come and feed the outlet. But the way the previous electricians had implemented it, they totally blew it, dropped the ball, in probably 3 different ways here. But we see this kind of stuff all the time, and we're always ready to deal with it when we do see it. So let's get busy fixing it. Well, you can see here we were pretty successful at finding a good ground here. So what we did was we found the ground wire that was coming through the box. It was coming in from one Romex connector here, and it was going in and coming out, just passing through the box and going up and out through that other one that you see up there. So what we had to do is first had to sand this wire down, and I did that with this emery paper here. This is like a little sandpaper, and that got all the paint off it, made it nice and shiny and copper and nice and bare. And you form a loop out of the wire, and then we stuck it through our screw. We stuck the screw through it and into the screw boss into the box. And then this is our pigtail. This pigtail is going to go to the outlet. So now this is the way the electrician should have done it in the first place. Don't ask me why they didn't do it that way. I just have no idea how builders get away with this stuff, but it still blows my mind how they overcharge you and overcharge you and overcharge you way above market value for a new house. And then this is how they treat you. It's just terrible. There's no excuse for this. And so this is the proper way to ground it. So what you can see, what happens is any ground that came through this box is now attached to the metal body of the box. And electrical code, National Electrical Code, requires a metal outlet box, whether it be a switch or an outlet, has to be bonded to the system ground. And this is how you do it. So now we're ready to go ahead and install the GFI outlet. Okay, so we've got our little outlet tester in here, and we've turned the power back on the panel in the kitchen there. And now we're ready to turn this guy on. So now, remember, we have to push in that red reset button. And as soon as we do, you'll see the green light come on here. And let's try it here. There you go. So there is the green light. And you can see we got both of our LEDs are lit, which is correct. If you look at the chart on the top, it tells you that you're fully wired and we are now GFI protected. Okay, so here we are. This is one other outlet here in the bathroom, And we're still smelling a little smoke coming through there. So you see those two little holes there on the left, back in the back of the box? We have to fill those in, and I'm sure we'll find out when we pull this outlet out that there's going to be a couple more holes back there as well. So I put my nose up to it, I can smell it, so that's why you have to make sure you fill in every possible nook and cranny when you're doing these kind of things here. So we'll do that now. Now as we pulled out the outlet, you can see here, we noticed something here. See this right here? This is, they took the ground wire, didn't even leave any decent parts of it that was copper, and they just wrapped it around a painted part of this screw boss here. That is a lesson, folks, in how not to ground an outlet. This outlet is not protected, it is not grounded. So anyway, we're going to be putting in a new outlet switch. And remember, this is a metal box, so we need to make sure that this metal box is grounded and bonded to the system ground. We're going to put a green ground screw right there. See that hole right there? That's meant to house a green ground screw. We're going to wrap this copper wire around it and connect it up properly to the new switch. Okay, so now let's show you the proper way to ground one of these boxes. So we're going to have to clean this off first. So I usually use this blue emery sandpaper tape here. This is what the plumbers use for doing a little abrasive sanding on the pipes before they solder. So see how this is nice and shiny copper now? That's how you make a nice, good conductor. Just like that. So you can see what we've done is we've wrapped the wire around a ground screw now. So now this metal box is going to be, it's already bonded to the system ground. Then if you look here real close, see how the way they ran those wires into the back of the switch there? That's a big no-no. Look how much, he's left almost 1/4 of an inch of bare exposed conductor. That's a major, major no-no. And this is what we find a lot down here with the builders. Like I said before in our other videos, the builders overcharge you big time, and this is the kind of quality work they give you. They just hire the lowest paid, dumbest guy in the world to do all their work, and this is what you're left with. So we're going to put a better switch in anyway. We're going to be putting this switch in. And you can see it has its own ground screw on there that we're going to connect it up to. So let's fix this problem right now. Alright, so there you can see we finally got it connected up. We added a pigtail wire because the amount of ground wire that they gave you was too short here. Same with their black and the white wires were too short. I mean, these guys are so dumb, it's like any chance they get to violate the National Electric Code, they will. You're supposed to have 6 inches of wire coming out of a box. So because of that, because of their foolish mistake, what we did was we had to, you'll see back in the corner there, we stuck in one of these Wago wiring nuts, and this is what they look like. So you put the 2 wires in there, and then you snap the doors down like this. And it holds the wires together nice and tight, so you have a nice tight connection. Then you run the other end of this pigtail over here to the outlet, so now you're perfectly fine. And it's okay if the ground here has a little bit of insulation peeled away. That's not a problem because there's no conductor there. It's not carrying current. So now I'm just going to see if I can't get a piece of black tape, green tape, electrical tape wrapped around the outlet there, because I always like to cover the terminals to protect anybody who comes in later to do any work and maybe they leave the power on or something. And before I do, I wanted to show you how I wired it. See how we put it so that the wire comes right up so that the insulation just touches the outside of the screw down plate there. You don't want the insulation to go behind the plate because the plate has to push against the metal part of the wire. So you only stop it right at the edge of the metal plate there. Looks a lot better than the way the original builder did it. Here we go. Ready? Okay. That leaves you with a nice clean bundle there, so if anybody ever touches that, they won't get shocked. So now if you focus your attention on the back, you'll see I plugged up those 2 holes there. Plus we went ahead and smoothed down with some silicone here around these cracks here, so the cigarette smoke won't come in from the next door neighbor's condo. So I think the smell is pretty much gone now, so we've successfully at least kept it coming in from this spot. So you get 2 repairs on 1 here today. Okay, so there we are. The Decora switch is all screwed in. And always remember, before you screw it in, always remember to look and make sure it says top. Now you probably can't see there, maybe you can, but engraved in the metal there, it'll say top. And that's how you know your switch is right side up. Otherwise, you'll plug it in, screw all the plates in and everything, and you're going to find out that your switch was upside down. Okay, now this step is what differentiates what we're doing with what everybody else does. We're putting this little gasket in here, and that also helps seal. It keeps your air conditioning from escaping out through your outlet and into the wall. And it also would seal it in case there was any cigarette smoke in there from the next door neighbor. So when we put the plate on here, it's going to squeeze this gasket up against the wall and cut everything off. There's no air is going to get in or out of here. And I always use these metal plates. I like these. These are super wide. They're wide on the side and taller on the top. So that'll help you in case you ever have any holes that were cut in the drywall too big. And these metal plates are good because you can see there's a little bit of curvature to the wall here. So I can screw this better to the wall than a plastic plate. The plastic ones will crack. And there is your finished product. And I normally like to leave both of my screws pointing straight up. It looks aesthetically better. You can see it's nice and snug here. There's no more cigarette smoke coming in from the next door neighbor's unit. All right, so now we're going to take this off, this vanity light. We need to see what's behind it to see what kind of cigarette smoke might be coming from there. This is going to get changed out anyway to a different type of vanity light. This is ancient. We don't do this kind of stuff. You don't give this to humans. All right, so this can here is the biggest offender. Look how many holes you see there that are in this thing. That all got to be filled up with the silicone there, because all the cigarette smoke is seeping in there. I can smell it right now, and my face is about 2 feet away. And then we're going to fill in all of these cracks along the bottom here as well with the caulk. Okay, so here you can see a few minutes later we've gone ahead and put all of the silicone in there. We've covered up all of the black holes that you see that were there, the openings, and we put some around the edge of the can where it mates up to the drywall. So now it's completely sealed and we can no longer smell the cigarette smoke. Well, we decided to go ahead and pull the vanity. It was going to come out anyway, but as you can see, we'll have to go and foam along here because that's part of that same wall where the cigarette smoke is coming in. And then we're going to have to seal up those openings right there where those pipes are. And then we should be fine. But if you look at all the sawdust that's down here, this is what came out of the bottom of the vanity here. And this is why I tell people, folks, never, ever, 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 ever buy any cabinets made out of particle board. If it's not solid wood, don't buy it. I don't care if it's cheaper, don't buy it. Because the stuff is just useless. This is what the builders give you. They sell you this garbage junk at the same time that they're overcharging you for your slice of paradise, and that's what happens. They all just disintegrate in place. But you should have seen the mess of these things. Make a mess when you're taking them out, and they leave trails of breadcrumbs all the way up the road there. And a couple of minutes later, I've got some of my drywall tape there covering that area there. We're going to smooth that out, and same with on this side here. We're going to smooth that out too with some drywall mud. And you can see I already started to seal these openings here with silicone. This one here's a little big, so he's going to require some foam, which we're going to use in a minute down here anyway. And while I'm at it, I'm going to take these goops of black adhesive off here from where the mirror was on the wall, and we're going to skim coat this. And here you can see we put the first layer of drywall mud over here over these little patches here. So we'll sand this down when it dries and we'll put a second layer on. Well, just to our luck, we smelled a little bit more smoke in the bathroom, although it wasn't as bad as it was before. We are getting almost all of it. But here again, we found another one. It was behind the light switch. And this was one that we'd forgotten about, but look, see? This is in the water closet area, the toilet. And you can see that gap right there. All of this has to get filled, and there's a hole there. There's several holes in the back of that outlet that also have to get filled as well. I am going to put a ground screw on there, on that tiny screw opening right there. We have to put a ground screw there because this is a metal box and they never bonded it. Goofballs. You can see the coppers right there, the ground line. So they brought the copper line into the box, but they never grounded it. They never bonded the box to the ground. So we have to do that to keep it up to the current code. And we also have to caulk around all of these seams here. So it's like never ending. When you think about the amount of hours of labor that you spend on trying to fix this stupid cigarette smoke problem, it's like, you should sue your next door neighbor and let them pay for it. So that concludes pretty much all of the areas that we had to block up. You also might want to check down under your sink where the pipes come out of the wall as well. But if you have any questions, leave them down in the comments, and also let us know what tricks you've used to get rid of cigarette smoke. And if you like us, you can click on that round icon there to subscribe to us, or you can click on either of these two videos that you see on the right and the left there, the thumbnails, to see some of our other useful videos. And if you like this, please give us a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel, and we'll see you on the next video. See ya.